Hi guys, I'm Tabiso and welcome to Expressions. And I'm here with a couple of guys from universities. We're here to talk about accommodation and what's been going on around Braamfontein. How long does it take for NSFAS to pay out and stuff?
It takes a while. It's a long process for NSFAS to take out money because you still need to register with the school and let them know that NSFAS is going to be accrediting you and whatnot.
Students are sleeping at labs and stuff. I mean, how does it happen?
It happens most of the times because most of the kids are not from Gauteng, so they don't have places to sleep. So only place they have to sleep is by the schools.
I saw a video of learners sleeping outside, other learners are sleeping in libraries. How are you going to study if you're sleeping outside? So it does delay studying, and I think it's really not fair. You can't promise someone money and then you're not paying. Some can afford, you know.
Some of us, we come from backgrounds where we don't have money and all that. So like NFS helps us a lot, understand? So like when they're not paying us and all that, like it's a problem, you understand?
It takes a long for them to respond to us, especially the late applications. So far, we applied last year and then some of them were rejected and then they did the appeal and then they're still waiting for the response. And it's about 3 months now, so they don't know where to live, where to get their meals, yeah.
With the current student accommodation challenges, the question that we're asking you tonight is simply this: is it possible to contain the spread of coronavirus in universities? With that said, we want to say hello, Dumelang Sanmonani, South Africa. A very warm welcome to Expressions. This is definitely the place for you to air your views. I'm your host, Jacqueline Mapala.
Sinbingelele Sinamgele, and I'm your host, Umxolisiwe Masango. Sizakene Bukhoma from our headquarters in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. Now, the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Blade Nzimande, has announced that all post-school institutions will be closed for early recess from the 18th of March. Now, this is in line with the government's plans to further prevent the spread of the coronavirus in South Africa.
Yes, Mkol, because there is also an arrangement, or at least an agreement that arrangements will be made for student accommodation. Now, this will be handled by each respective institution. But how viable is this? Let's find out what students had to say about this. Take a look at this.
Students are happy that the university decided to go on early recess because they were wondering, as per President's announcement, that the university is not taking any decision. But yesterday we have seen the university management taking a decision that they are taking an early recess.
I feel like we should not close the campus. We're going to different provinces. So as we come back, somebody might be affected and it's going to affect all of us here in Mafikeng. So I feel like we should just stay here. It's more safer here since the percentage of the virus here is still low.
In order to combat the spreading of coronavirus, all the institutions, all the public institutions, whereby there are more than 100 people gathering there, they must be shut down. That's what the president said. So we are just implementing what the president said. It is not something new.
That's what Tulo Shalomzanzi have to say. At the back of that, I'm joined by my guests in studio to further this discussion. Ubabu Putimanamela is the Deputy Minister for Higher Education, Science and Technology in South Africa. Kayeno Puti Ubongani Mahlangu, who is the NEC member from the South African Union of Students. Welcome and thank you for your time on Expressions.
Thank you for having us.
Great to have you on the show indeed. And of course, I don't do this by myself. My co-host, Jacqueline Mapala, making sure that all your comments in Nkundleni Zethu Zokuxhumana don't go unseen. Hello, Jackie.
Hello, hello.
Let's get this conversation started. Now, Deputy Minister, we already have a student accommodation system that is seemingly under pressure right now, with students squatting in libraries, amage totally destitute. And then in comes coronavirus to throw a spanner in the works, to say the least. Do we really have an education system that is, first of all, has the capacity to deal with all of this and, most importantly, ready to deal with this looming crisis, if we'd call it that?
Look, I mean, firstly, I think we must acknowledge that student accommodation is a crisis. We have made certain interventions. Firstly, the fee-free higher education policy allocates resources to students whose parents are of a certain level of income, allocates them to be able to pay either directly to the institution so that they're allocated accommodation. Those who don't have accommodation in institutions, they are then required to stay in university accredited accommodation. Those who are staying at home are given an allowance, something just above 2,000 rands for transport. It's because we realized that, but also earlier this year, the president announced that more than 60 billion rand will be invested in, in student accommodation. Some 2-3 years ago, the minister launched the Student Housing Initiative Project, which is an initiative between our department, Treasury, and DBSA, and whose intention is to deal with the question of accommodation. And as part of that intervention includes us, investing highly in online learning, distance learning, because we believe that, with the current infrastructure, we will not be able to, completely deal with the question of student accommodation. Now, given your question today, in relation to the coronavirus, what we've agreed with the student leadership and with the university management is that from tomorrow, as you indicated, onwards, universities will be going on early recess. We're not shutting down. We're not, suspending learning and teaching. Universities will announce in due course from tomorrow onwards as to what the form of learning and teaching will, take place. We believe that universities have got the necessary protocols to be able to deal with the challenges of coronavirus, meaning if in instances where they require students to vacate campuses, they will make those arrangements. In instances where students are staying on campus, they will also ensure that proper protocols are followed, as announced both by the president on Sunday and by the minister today, so that we maintain the containment phase of the coronavirus in our institutions.
Bongani, I need to bring you into the conversation. The deputy minister is announcing all these grand plans, of course, the plans that have been going to be implemented or still in the process of being implemented. Do you think that's enough, seeing that, first of all, your union also called for a shutdown of universities at the back of all the crisis, the looming crisis as we've been seeing? Is what the deputy minister is saying enough?
We should, I think, properly contextualize this. When we called for the shutdown early in the year, that was for a whole range of issues, your financial exclusions, your inadequate student housing, issues of depression not being dealt with or taken serious by institutions, and so forth and so on. That was a separate issue. When we come to this issue now in the context of student accommodation and the measures that the Deputy Minister has mentioned, we are in agreement, because some of those measures that will be taken by the respective institutions is how to contain the spread of the coronavirus is some things that we had engaged on earlier in the stakeholder meeting, and we came out agreeing to what the Deputy Minister is making mention to. And also, as now we are specifically talking about students that reside on campus, we have to remember that in the South African context, that's less than probably 35% of the student population. So it's not a lot of students if you had to attach a value to it, because now we are just using a percentage. So it's only those. Majority of our students are outside the premises of the university. So we would just say they are in the community and not necessarily within the universities themselves. So then that smaller number becomes easier to deal with than if maybe we would say the opposite, the inverse was true, where you'd find your 65% of the students residing on campus. That's a big number and would require much more than what has been articulated by the Deputy Minister in order to deal with. But this one you can easily deal with by coming up with your hygiene regime, a proper hygiene regime that will be implemented at those accommodations in order to contain the spread. Remember, the reason why China was able to contain is because they moved quickly. And some of those moving quickly is because of the efficiencies that they would have developed when they were dealing with the SARS virus, I think around 2002. And at the pace that we are moving, we are showing the same level of seriousness and will be able to achieve probably the same outcomes as they have achieved with what they have done.
All right. Now, Deputy Minister, I know there was pandemonium earlier on. Abafundi, some of them, especially in campuses like Wits, saying, listen, if you're going to give us an early recess, if we're going to be going back to our communities, that's surely putting some members of the community at risk as well. Can you just perhaps clarify that for us?
In what way is it putting members of the community at risk? I think, part of the things we were discussing today was that there have to be, science behind our decisions. Science meaning that we've got to make an assessment of where we are now. We are still at an early phase of the coronavirus. We're still at the containment phase of the virus. So it hasn't really mutated as compared to where China was at this particular period. We're not yet at the stage where some of those countries in Europe are. And so what we're trying to do is, and also because there is yet to be higher transmission at a community level. So what this does is, firstly, we're not saying universities must vacate or keep students on campus. Universities will take a decision upon consultations with stakeholders on campus, upon assessment of the situation. For instance, UCT and WITS took a decision precisely because they discovered that there was a case, on campus. But even then, 72 hours notice, but also certain measures were taken to ensure that we do not put communities at risk. And the same will apply with all the other incidents. But what this also does is that it gives us an opportunity to plan when students come back, at a later stage, so that we're able to plan and prepare properly, so that we are able to maintain the spread of the virus at a containment phase.
All right, sure. We're going to continue with that conversation. We're breaking. And now, Mbugeli, do keep the conversation going. Enkundleni zethu zokuxhumana. Siyabuya. This is Expressions.
Welcome back. You are still watching Expressions here on SABC. With the current student accommodation challenges that we're facing in this country, we're asking you this simple question. Is it possible to contain the spread of coronavirus in our universities? Now, I am joined by my distinguished guests. My first guest is Cebo Khumalo, who is a VIT student, as well as Malala Pulusi. He's also a VIT student. Welcome to Expressions, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, I think let me start with yourself, Malala. I mean, we heard the fact that universities have indicated that they want students to vacate their residence within 72 hours. Yes. And the background, or at least the context around your story, is the fact that you're one of the students who is struggling when it comes to accommodation. You've had to sleep in a library. We want to understand, and lots of viewers who are watching right now the show, to say, Okuti, what does this mean for you? Right now, when you leave the studio, are you going to go back and sleep in the same library?
Well, to me, the story is different because the people who have accommodation right then, they just vacate. But for me, when I get out here, I'm just going to go straight to the lab. That's where I'm going to sleep at the moment, because I don't have accommodation right now. So the thing of vacating, it's kind of, it's just, I don't know how to explain it. It hurts. That thing is painful because you just sleep there at the lab. Now I have to get my stuff right. I don't even have enough money because I'm struggling myself with sleeping in the lab. Sometimes I don't even have enough money for food because I just can't explain it.
Yeah.
It's painful. Yeah. I can't explain it. It's, the pain of sleeping in the lab. The thing is, you just go there in the lab, you're thinking that there are people who are studying, right? And it will be around 1 p.m. and you'll be thinking people are here to study. And then it's 1 a.m. late at night, you think people are just studying. Maybe they're finishing their projects. Later, around 3, you'll just realize all these people that are here, they are here to sleep at the lab. They don't have accommodation. There are a lot of people who don't have accommodation. So I don't know what the government is doing about it.
And I want to bring you into this. I mean, this is an issue that I'm sure is also very close to your heart, because Definitely. I think previously you had to experience the same thing. The Deputy Minister mentioned the fact that students will be provided with some kind of accommodation if they cannot find a place to stay. And he also mentioned the fact that there's going to be a small amount that they'll be given so that they can be part of these accommodation. How accessible is this? Is this actually what's happening on the ground?
Look, if we were to be honest, really, there is a lack of willingness from the government, whether we call it political willingness, but there's a lack of willingness to solve the issue. Because previously we've stated to the government to say the Constitution, Section 25, subsection 2, allows the government to expropriate land. For example, UJ and VETS, you have Bramfontein. Bramfontein is being owned by people who are not using the buildings to accommodate students. And majority of these buildings are they are not in good condition to accommodate students. So if government can expropriate these buildings to accommodate students, I'm telling you, we won't have such problems in the next years to come. Because now the problem is that VETS must take out a specific amount of money. We as a political organization must take out a specific amount of money and donate to South Point. They charge us to put students. Next year, the same students who are first year, who have passed, but because they are too rich to be on NSFAS, but too poor to afford fees at VET, they have to be subjected to sleeping at the night.
This is clearly a crisis, and I think this is probably the reason why at least the president announced this as a state of disaster in our country. I think with that, let's roll our WhatsApp and let's hear what you had to say about this very important issue. Please roll it.
Greetings expression. My name is Nkosana Koba, a student at CPUT. We're facing problems as students with the fact that institutions are sending us home during these risky times. With my opinion, and according to what the president said during the address, I believe that sending students away is not such a good idea after all. It's risky and very inconsiderate, because I believe that we from different provinces and therefore we use different transportations to go home. As a result, this means that we have to be in contact with of different people.
Well, that's a very valid point, especially considering the fact that even COVID, for instance, we've had a positive a case of coronavirus. And I think let's go into your social media and just to find out what you have to say about this issue. Usisa says it's a win-win situation, but as long as each and everyone follows him or himself before at least following all the prescribed precautions. And then Uspasiza says, yes, it's always possible. Keep clean and clean around your space. It's easy. Washing your hands is also vital. So obviously hygiene is extremely important when it comes to at least fighting coronavirus. And then Ulindiwe says, or at least Ulondiwe said, it is only the community, at least who has to comply with government's attempt to put precautions and safety measures in place. Now, you're a young person, Kohaye, and this is an issue that is definitely going to affect you. We want to find out obviously from you whether you feel as a university student, whether you are safe or not safe within the institutions. Now, we'll be back after this. Mkolo always says, tell a friend to tell a friend that the hottest current affairs show is now on. We'll be back right after this.
Now, with the current student accommodation challenges, is it possible to contain the spread of the coronavirus in South Africa? You're still with the Expressions, your hashtag #1 Youth Current Affairs show. Now, Deputy Minister, I'm going to ask you to respond to what Malala said earlier, because clearly this is a reality that a young person is going back to. He's a student. How do we deal with cases such as his?
Well, I mean, I'm not certain of what the circumstances are, and what I can only commit to is to, get more information from him. Is he on NSFAS? If he is on NSFAS, if there are problems with them paying, then we can just specifically deal with those. There are close to 200,000 students whose accommodation is being paid for by the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, who are staying on campus, and then there are those who are off campus. So I think we'll just have to get deeper into what the details are. The responsibility of accommodation on campuses is the responsibility that lies squarely on the foot of the universities. We give universities grants and subsidies, and as I said, for the foreseeable medium-term expenditure. About 64 billion rands has been allocated for that, and we fund on the basis of plans that comes from those institutions and based on the demand. And thirdly, I think to suggest that sending students home, firstly, we didn't say we're shutting down campuses, so institutions will decide what they do. But if institutions decide that students should vacate campuses, I think it's irrational to argue that you're putting students in danger, because the majority of students actually who are on campus reside off campus. So campuses are part of the community. So what we are instead doing as government as a whole is to strengthen measures and control to contain the virus all over the country, whether on or off campus. So I think people need to be guaranteed, students need to be guaranteed that we are going to be doing everything in our powers, already there are cases reported on campus. So I think it's fallacious to suggest that if you're staying on campus, you'll be safe. And I think finally, what we will be doing, we are aware of the discontent.
All right.
We're aware of the challenges. We have had engagements. We're going to be working tirelessly to mobilize resources, to work with the private sector, to encourage public-private partnerships in order to resolve the accommodation crisis, and also to help universities and TVET colleges to spend money.
Combined effort, indeed.
It's a combined effort. Exactly.
Bongani, what's your parting shot with us? Speak to your constituency.
First of all, I want to touch on the student accommodation crisis quickly. Is that we also should contextualize it. When we go to your historically advantaged institutions, the problem there is not infrastructure deficit, but the pricing is too high. Hence, students cannot access those spaces. If you go to a historically disadvantaged institution, the problem there is lack of infrastructure. And these are not things only I would say the department must look at, but the vice chancellors themselves. Remember, now you have money for tuition, but you don't have the access to accommodation, which now becomes a transformation issue. So now, vice chancellors have a mandate to transform these institutions. And then student accommodation can be located in the transformation mandate given to vice chancellors. So that is important. It has to be noted, because we can't just say deficit as if it's a one-size-fits-all. It differs according to geography.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. We've ran out of time. Of course, Butimana Mela is the Deputy Minister from the Higher Education, Science and Technology Department, NEC, member from the SA Union of Students. Thank you for your time on Expressions. Mbugeli, we asked you the big question, with the current student accommodation challenges, is it possible to contain the spread of the coronavirus in universities? Now, this is what you had to say. About 30% of you said yes, and 70% said no. So say Vala Gejek.
Sevala, I hope we got all the information that required. I think we're definitely going to go out with another popping talent on the show. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.
Yeah, I know that you've been hustling for so long. They turned you down many times, you're so strong. Your body's looking tired, man, you're so weak. Your voice is even trembling, you can't speak. Kehale okwatala bo, kehale nti olabo. Kehalo zama boy, kehalo nyokwehama boy. Yeah, the devil's trying to take your soul, he can't read. Prayer keeps you going, I respect your faith. Your mama tells you,